This is our topic today. So it says part one because if we had to kind of break up teaching into two big buckets, we might say you present content or you let the students practice. So this, we're going to more heavily focus on presenting content, okay? Not the practice part. So I don't want you to walk away thinking, gosh, she's not even into letting students practice. So this is the first part. We're going to talk about media selection. Let's see if I have an agenda here. Right here. So media selection, we spend a lot of time on that, of what can you flip, what can you put online or put elsewhere. Okay, so a lot of talk on that. And then the second part is really on creating and accessing the content. So the part two will be more on practice exercises. And please feel free to ask questions at any time, follow up with me later, et cetera, et cetera. What did I miss here? Oh yeah, this is your role. This is part of your role here. Okay, knowledge, does this have a knowledge of subject matter, right? This is your domain knowledge. Then before the class starts, you need to design, okay? And then during the class, you work with the students, grade their papers and so forth. All the design is done. And then there's a lot of managing the course, right? Logging the grades, all this kind of thing, especially in the online space. Probably most of what I'm going to talk about relates to those of you who teach just online or if you teach in some kind of a hybrid format. Okay, so here's our agenda. And this I just thought was interesting. I'm pushing the wrong button here. 1840, first correspondence school. And then here in New York, 1883. And then this slide, 93. I remember hearing about this back in the day when I was in school, Jones University. So this whole thing is not quite as new as you might think. I remember watching an old, I don't know, it was Laurel and Hardy or something, and they got a record in the mail to teach them Spanish or something. So we've had this idea of distance learning. And then here are a few models for blended. I'm having fun now with my laser pointer. Okay, I would say that most of you are probably here, primarily face-to-face and want to add some online elements. Is that true? Okay. This, I'd say some of the people, and there's a few people in here that are in the blended program, and they're having a heavier reliance on blended, on online, almost sort of a back and forth, face-to-face and then online. So more of a rotation. And here's some other models where there's only a lab or the user gets to choose what they want, or more online. Okay? And here's a possible pattern. Again, this is with a heavier, maybe a heavier online, where this is two classes, the darker one and the lighter one. They only meet twice a week. Now some of you only meet twice a week, but imagine a course where you used to meet 3 times a week and now you only meet twice a week. So some of those people, the faculty in the blended program, are actually doing that. They are removing one of their class days. The university is starting to like that idea because it frees up the physical plant. Okay, so some of you, may not take it that far. I think, for example, a lot of people use a Sakai companion. Is anyone using Sakai? Okay, great. So many of you are. So you may use it probably for grade books. What else? Posting your documents? Good. What? Polling. Okay, good. What else are you using Sakai for currently? Discussion boards? Anyone using the forums? Forums, good. Okay, good. Web links, good. What else? Good. The assignment tab, assignment feature. Good. So great, kind of a collection point. Okay. So, but would you say though, obviously, your predominant delivery of content is in the physical space? And again, like I said, today we're going to talk about taking content and putting it online, especially in a kind of a movie type of format. So this is a definition of flipped. Okay, I'm sure you're aware of this. You're all here. So taking their lecture content, turning it into video, and I would include reading, and something that's a self-study, all right? and trying to exploit, and I mean that in a good way, exploit the experience in the classroom, whatever that is. Okay? And here's a plug for this. This is some of the student responses, okay? Higher quality of interaction. One thing we find in the online space is there could be more time on task, which is important. The students may, if they have the opportunity to do stuff online, they may spend more time doing their work. Convenience is a big thing, okay? Stay on topic. A big one, too, with the online forums is greater overall participation of all students versus just a few students who can participate in person. We'll talk a lot about discussions in part 2 of this. Okay. And then here's some comments from students. Self-direction. They improved their self-direction. They opened up in the discussions a little bit greater. Okay. Open my eyes to multiple paths on how to learn. Okay. And I want to take now a minute to talk about media versus methods. All right. So media is the vehicle. Okay. So for us, that's probably a face-to-face classroom or an online space. And it's interesting. I want to throw in there too, service learning is another element in the mix here of blended. And I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's another way for students to have experiences outside the classroom. Now the methods are things that could go across media. For example, you could use examples and practice in either vehicle, in face-to-face or the online space. You could do a role play in either one. Okay, you could do, what other methods do you use in the classroom? What other techniques do you use? If you were to give a name for it, case studies, for example, simulations. Because we're going to get into how do you choose one or the other. So simulation in general, okay, is a method. It can be done online or face-to-face. We already kind of see that interesting kind of blend there. So here's an example. I want you to just read it and try to figure out which is the media and which is the method. I have a typo, sorry. Okay, what do you see? What are some of the media that are used here?
Reading on the website.
Reading on the website, good. So obviously reading can occur on a website, textbook, etc. You can read in class, but it's not a good use of the class time. You could do it. I've seen it. Okay, good. What else is a medium? You guys familiar? Okay, good. So in video is a funny one where you might say that could be considered, it's a media. What was the first thing you used? Demonstration. I would consider demonstration a method. And it's not that you always have to be so strict about what bucket does it fall into, but we want to make sure you don't kind of feel limited. We're trying to say whatever method you do, you could probably do it online. Probably, So Adobe Connect is, you could either call it a virtual classroom tool or a web conferencing tool. So it's like, it's kind of like Google Hangouts, but is more feature-rich, and we have it here. So it's, typically it's driven by an instructor or facilitator, and everybody logs in at the same time from their remote locations. They can show PowerPoints, video, they can annotate, do chat, have questions, things like that. So that would be a medium. Okay, Adobe Connect is an online medium. But it has, for a fancy word, affordances that are specific to that medium. So the lines do blur a little bit. Let's see what we have here. So these are some of the answers. So we see our old friend feedback is important. We're going to talk more about that. Demonstration is a fantastic technique. And then explanation is more in the category of what we're talking about today, more presenting content. Okay? All right. So I want to tell you about a study that the military did. This was a long time ago, so before we had personal computers. And it was about how to maybe calibrate some piece of equipment or something. And there were three conditions: film, classroom, or paper. And which one do you think led to better learning of the task? Let's vote. Let's vote. How many say film? Let's vote. Film? Classroom? Paper? No difference. Everyone's abstaining, okay. It was no difference. They found no difference. Because the military was very curious. And they've been very early in this whole educational technology area and looking at the validity of these different methods. And here's another one, is a meta study, 2024. So looking at distance education, okay. I'm going to look at the results. So really, no significant difference. If you look at it, which one would do better. So say if we said it's looking at, is distance better? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Typically there's no difference, okay? So you don't need to worry. So that's one of the messages here. You don't need to worry that you're cheating students if you're not in front of them, okay? So let's look at this. I love Venn diagrams. So this is teasing it even further. So not just saying, is it online or not, but kind of looking. So asynchronous, we are having a synchronous, this is what we're doing right here. We are here, okay? Synchronous, so same time, same place, physical classroom. You can also have the Adobe Connect as an example of synchronous on the computer. So we often get together at the same time, but we're not in the same place, okay? Asynchronous e-learning this is the academic model. This is what we do here at APU pretty much. Things are posted. This is for just the online part. Imagine just the online portion of an online course. Students post stuff, and then you respond later, right? You're not there at the same place. Is anyone using a tool like Adobe Connect or Google Hangouts? Is anyone using a tool like that? Okay. It seems like it's not used a lot here. So that's an opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity for office hours or one-on-one sessions, different things. Okay. And then the last thing, asynchronous e-learning, no instructor at all. So I came from the corporate world, and this was where we lived, right here, okay? Self-running modules. I did a lot of online teaching as well, but mostly I was in this space. So, for example, our respect and esteem training that you have to take, okay. Those can be good or bad or whatever, but there's no teacher at all. And you can have elements of all this. This is all available to you. All right? You can do everything. If, for example, I'm going to show you an example of a publisher-provided piece that's just totally self-running. We know there's an instructor. It's all driven by you, but you can have some of these other elements. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's look at the concept of media selection. What do we put online? You might say, well, you could put your lecture online. That's true. But maybe you want to chop that up and kind of reevaluate it and analyze it and figure out at a greater level of granularity what you want to put online or not. Okay? So now this is actually from, so going way back for me, I used to get this question a lot, what can you put online? And so I made a checklist many years ago. And so this is borrowed from some of that. But some of this may still relate to you. It's interesting. What is your name? Elaine. Elaine talked about a tool, expensive or rare equipment, right? You have to go in person to do it, all right? Facilities. Some of these don't all, relate. Availability. These do, I would say, okay? So some of the things that might help you decide, do I want to do this thing? Imagine all your content that you have in a course. Some of it is really content. Some of it is the way you like to teach it, special activities you like to do. So either one, the content by itself or the activity you like to do. Should you put it online or not? So one consideration is need for group interaction. This is a big one, need for reflection. Does the student need to have time to work through something? Okay. Use of visuals or moving media, well, that could be done in the class or online, obviously, either one. All right. And the media thing too gets into, it's so interesting, Elaine, right, said they videotaped the simulator. So now they've made it available online. So you can be very clever, that is clever, of creating media to make things online. Okay. We're recording the session today, obviously. It won't be the same, as being there. And then diverse population. This is really a great thing to consider is if you have a heterogeneous population, you can bring other people up to speed in different topic areas with the asynchronous component, whether it's your online lectures, readings, and so forth. You're nodding your heads, yeah. Because one of the huge problems of face-to-face training and courses is you got everyone in the room at the same time, and what if they're at different levels, okay? And here's another thing to consider is types of interactions. Student to instructor, one-to-one or one-to-many. And think too, I mean, you guys, some of you have big classes. So far at APU, I've taught online. I have not had some of the big classes. So I'm very sympathetic to the idea of efficiency. And I think doing things for the sake of efficiency is very valid. If you can kind of get out of some of the grading and some of those things, I think it's very valid. Okay, so what do we put you on? What's the best thing to put you on? Can students interact with each other, or can they interact with the content? These are some of our options. Okay, this is, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned the handout. You have your handout. So this content is in here. Okay, this handout here with the Venn diagram on the front. So it talks about the strengths and limitations of human interaction or interacting with the content. And typically, the content, this is really probably computer-based content, okay? So people are good at emotions, okay? So where, a lot of times if it comes to motivation, I mean, if you have a really good movie, that can motivate, but a lot of times that's your job, is to motivate the students, okay? And I'm going to open it up to the group here. The other is complex diagnostics, all right? If a computer's not programmed, like your simulator, if it's not programmed to be ready for a certain kind of question, it cannot answer it, right? If you have a simulation. But computers are very patient. They'll deliver something over and over again, and they're available all the time. Okay. You tell me, what else are humans good at? What else can humans do that computers can't do? What is some of your secret sauce that you bring? And we're going to talk about the special tasks that you teach. So even not necessarily, I mean, you could include in your domain area, but even other things. You know, when you think about anything, what else can the faculty bring that they can't just get from some content? And I would say, I'm going to piggyback on that, in this area of complex diagnostics, maybe, I taught org behavior, and that's kind of sort of in your field, so I'm going to try to relate it to that. Maybe there's a theory that they learn in the book, but you can help. You say, oh, John, you work for a nonprofit. You know, this theory applies to nonprofits in this way. So, because you can put it all together, which no computer can do, right, with that particular person. Good. What else? What else can faculty bring to the table?
Personal experience.
Good. Personal experience. And let me piggyback on that is relationship. I think those personal stories you tell obviously build relationship, which students really want and help to motivate them and keep them going through. You know, and what I thought you maybe were going to say is ask the group, you were going to ask the other students to pray for him and his wife. Because I think that's some of the secret sauce faculty can bring. And you know, I hear stories that some young people today are a little more disconnected and they're not as skilled at social interaction. I'm not sure. But to help with that student-student piece, help bring people together, help them learn how to work together, how to form teams, you know, establish roles, things like that. I think that's a big value. And being a role model is a fantastic role that faculty can play. And I hope I don't sound so robotic to even question, well, what do faculty bring? I guess that's a little controversial, but we want to apply you in the best way, and try to be efficient and save your time, but still have you give students the best, you know, of what you can give. And obviously, some faculty actually generate content. I mean, a lot of content, and whether it's textbook or an article or the announcements every week. So faculty do generate the content as well and do design the courses. Okay. This is kind of just the flip side of the other one of saying, you know, what they can or can't do. So I'm going to move on here. Okay, so let's keep going on this issue of media selection. Okay, what can be done more efficiently asynchronously? So that's without you there. Stuff that takes a lot of time to complete: reflection, things that can be acquired by reading, skills that benefit from drill and practice. Now that's if there's some way for them to do it, such as a simulator. I'm going to show you a website. Do any of you use publisher-provided online materials? Anyone here? We were talking about that today. You do. Which publisher? Elsevier. Okay, good. So I've used Pearson, and I'm going to go on one of their websites. And so they have flashcards. Or you could encourage students to study together. Do any of you ever facilitate study groups? You ever? Yes. Yes. Okay, good, great. So kind of help them help each other, because they're such a great resource for each other, obviously. Okay, and obviously computer-related skills. Okay, let's keep going here. So, in general, work that requires a lot of reflection is best done asynchronously. Now, I will say, you can create mini asynchronous groups in a classroom, right? So you could have students work on their own. So I used to work for a company called Clark Training. And we did a lot of stuff where there'd be a little tiny lecture, and then students would do their own work at the table, and then come back and report out. Do little group work, report out. Because the way those were structured was all day, okay? So we broke it up a lot. So there would be sometimes larger projects, they'd leave the room. So we created little kind of mini asynchronous environments. So even then, things that we say you should do in an asynchronous environment, you can create those even within the classroom. Now, and I've heard, do most of you teach like an hour-and-a-half class, or do some of you teach longer classes? How long?
Almost 5 hours.
Wow. Wow. Who else? Some of you?
2 hours twice.
2 hours twice a week. 3 hours, how many? See, those are long. How long? 3. That's a long period of time. So the more you can break that up, and I'm afraid I'm being a little bit of a sage on the stage today. This is a little bit of a lecture format. The more you can break it up, the better. Let's see. In contrast, things that you think can benefit from social interaction are better, you know, in a synchronous environment. And it says consider alternating. And here's another thing to think about. So one of the big things is opportunity for reflection. Okay, that's really big. You cannot do a calculus problem while I'm talking, right? I have to shut up so that you can do it. Here's another one, how fast the feedback is. So if you have some kind of an online simulation, that feedback is immediate. It can't get any faster. I can't do it as an instructor. I cannot give you the feedback as fast, okay? But I can do it pretty fast, okay? And depending on, like, do any of you use the real-time polling in the classroom, the clickers? So some of you do. Some of you do. Do you know what those are? So the little devices. So that's very fast. It's creating sort of a little mini simulation in the classroom. So those are neat, where students can respond, everyone at the same time. So it's more democratic, right? Not just the one person raising their hand, more democratic, and can give immediate feedback, right? I can see their answers and I can respond. Okay? The asynchronous online is the slowest feedback. Okay? So those of you who teach online, does anyone have any completely online courses? So some of you do. Okay, good. Do you tell students, I will give you feedback within X number of days or hours or anything like that? What do you typically say? What's a good? 2 days. 24 hours. 24 hours, okay.
Monday through Friday, 24 hours. On the weekends, I have 2 days.
Okay. Okay, good. So we see the feedback is a little slower. All right. And some of you may say, well, you can email me or call me, you know, or I mean, and it depends on the task, you know. If you are learning how to dance, I mean, I don't know. Some things will lend themselves to that faster feedback. Okay, so we have opportunity for reflection is important. Feedback is very important. The other thing that's really important is the key task you're trying to teach. So you all write learning objectives or learning outcomes for your courses, right? They're in your idea forms, da, da, da. So those things that you really want students to be able to do when they leave the class, okay? So we can think of an objective really as a task. This is kind of a corporate word, task, but it's the thing that you want them to be able to do. So I think if you really focus on that and try to analyze where do I need to see them doing it? Do I need to give them feedback right then in the class? And some tasks are very complex, so there's little mini tasks that lead up to it. And you might say, well, this part of it they can do on their own. That's fine, the preparation. But this part I want to see and give them immediate feedback. So that's a big consideration. It's really the thing you're teaching. And do I need to be there to see them and give them feedback, or can their colleagues give them their other students give them feedback, and so forth. So this says, does it require expert review? Do I need to see it? Or if it's a written task, I am going to give them my expert review, but it's on the product. It's not on them, real time doing it. It's on the product of their work. So do some of you have, when students create something, I mean, most people, assign papers, which is a kind of a product that you can analyze later. Do any of you have tasks that you want students to do that you have to see them do it? Nursing, yes. What is your field?
Public communication.
Great. What's your name?
Jeff.
Jeff, hi there. Public communication. So what's kind of a thing you want to see them do?
Their speeches.
Speeches. Good. Now how would you feel, let's keep going. How would you feel about having them videotaping their speeches and then you watch it? And yet, I bet, so I kind of think, when I was back in the day at USC, I did work for the School of Social Work. I kind of think of social work as having a lot of principle-based tasks that require a lot of judgment, and some things that are very procedural, law-based. There's forms, there's rules, and maybe certain of your tasks are big uber tasks that you could break up, and maybe you could do some of that online and some of it, that part you want to see, So I'm just kind of imagining that maybe some of it you could deliver online, because you might say, oh, I have to see them do it. Okay, but what are all the little mini components that feed into that big task? Okay. So, now this is the thing that whatever the verb is, some of you may think more in terms of objectives, okay? The thing they have to do, you write an objective based on it. You need to have them, you have to learn, okay, today we're talking not so much about activities, but present. You need to present that material somehow. This is how you do it. And there's probably an activity, okay? And then there's probably an assessment. But we want to see that same task through. So the idea here is we repeat the exposure. So, because sometimes, especially you guys have really big classes, you have to keep remembering those through lines that when I write the objective, I show them how to do it, I test them on it, I have an activity, that we always have that through line for all the major tasks, okay? So you know that's part of your structure. And now so for example, maybe this activity's online, this assessment's online, this activity's in person, etc. This one, maybe it's not graded, they just get feedback, or maybe it has a lower score, or maybe it is graded, I don't know. But it's their chance to practice. So it's interesting, Jeff, you said for you, they have an activity with that videotape. Is that graded or no? They just only, okay, good. So this part is not graded, but it's the same task that they're assessed on later. So great structure there. Now this is part of the faculty secret sauce, is this concept of transactional distance. Okay, I'll let you go ahead and read it. So and this may have more relevance for completely online courses, because in the blended space, you are there. They do see you. But, maybe the idea of having online lectures makes them feel like you're more present. Or these personal announcements that you give, maybe you refer to certain people and give them feedback in the announcement. whatever those things are that make them feel like you're there. Another term is social presence. They feel like they're part of something. And again, with the blended courses, it's a little bit less of an issue. Okay. Just here's another slide here. How can we leverage you and these students? So what are some of the things that you do best? We kind of already talked about this, okay? And do lean on the students, right? The students can review each other's work. They can help each other, okay? That collaboration piece is very powerful. Any comments on the collaboration? Like when you, Elaine, said, oh, they want me in there, what I found is I used to do a jigsaw method where students teach, but then they kind of wanted the final say to be the teacher. So we'd have kind of a handout. Well, this is what we believe. Any comments, any lessons learned on the idea of trying to leverage the group to teach each other? Any comments on that? I'm going to show you structure that talks about increasing the complexity. I mean, you may choose to have some of your in-class activities be maybe not quite as difficult. Or maybe if you find that there are certain things that students can't teach each other, right? It just doesn't work, they don't get it, whatever. Well, that's where you, as an expert, is going to say, when I parse out where I'm going to put things, I'm not going to put that in a collaborative model because that's not working. Or they need me to explain it, or they have so many questions. When I make my decisions about what to put where, I'm going to put that in the face-to-face part. So that's part of your expertise that you bring to the design of your course. Okay. Okay, so here's this model. And I stole this from somebody. Right, but the model, notice this. So this is the part here. So Bloom's Taxonomy, you probably all know this. This is types of learning objectives or types of tasks. And it starts, these are easier to do basically, and it gets up to more complex ones. So this before, during, and after model is proposing, what if before class you have them do kind of the easier stuff, okay? And then during class it gets a little harder. And then after class, that's when maybe they do their own project. They do their own analysis, or they do their own paper or whatever. Like, I'll give you an example. We're doing, a couple people in the class are in our faculty learning community. So one way you can do this is with a model of your practice is on a case study where everyone's doing the same thing. Okay, that's in class. And then your assessment on their own is on their own project. So we're revisiting that task twice, okay? But it's more complex the second time because they're on their own. There's no one else doing the same project, whereas in the case study, they can share. So in our faculty learning community, we did this by having people make a little mini lesson on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Everyone does the same thing. So if there's somebody who doesn't understand Camtasia, they just don't get it, but they're really good at organizing information, they go, well, I'll take that part and I'm going to learn Camtasia from you guys or whatever. But by the end of that, hopefully they've got the whole package and now they're ready to do their own project at home. Okay? So that's a proposed model. Now, not everything you teach is worthy of revisiting 3 times. So this might be for your major objectives. Any comments, questions on this? Okay, and this is in your handout as well. Now here's a very big complex slide, but anyway, we also have Bloom's Taxonomy here, and then it has some examples of synchronous and asynchronous media. This is media here, okay? So just to kind of show you that. All right, and here's an example of some blending, and this is a corporate example. So the objective is how to write how to write interview questions. Okay, sorry, that fell off the side there. And then conduct the interviews. This is kind of a 2-part objective. So the pre-work is the reading on the legal issues. And then in class, they talk about how to write non-discriminatory questions. And then out of class, they're going to write them. Now on the interviewing part, they're going to read about the guidelines for interviewing. And then in class, they're going to do a teacher demo. And then the practice doesn't really say if it's a role play or whatever. But they're trying to use the secret sauce of the teacher, demonstrating how to do a good interview, and then utilize the other students for actually carrying it out. Here's another example. This is a more technical example, a web design course. They have a quiz on the reading, so they acquire the information before class. Mock usability testing class. So the students, I'm assuming that they've created something that then the other students are going to try to use and see if they can understand the navigation, the buttons, and all that stuff. End of each class for troubleshooting. Ahead of time, they've emailed the project to the teacher with a question. So what I like about this is really, I'm stuck on using secret sauce, I hope you don't mind, but this is really using the teacher's secret sauce because they can get personalized answering questions, evaluating the projects, and sharing with the group what they found in all these projects. I mean, no computer can do that. And they do a cognitive apprenticeship, so sort of like your example, Elaine, where the teacher's showing, this is how I read the text, okay? This faculty member is showing, this is how I troubleshoot, demonstrating it, okay? No other way they can do that, especially on their projects. It's the only place they can get something like that. Now this, I just like this picture. I put here, every course has a rhythm. So you're going to have to figure out what your rhythm is, okay? The teacher, poor teacher down here. I'll let you do this. So you're going to have to figure out what your rhythm is. So maybe right now you're only using gradebook and a Sakai, but you say, I think I want to start using some quizzes on the reading. So the faculty member I spoke to the other day, the students had to get in that rhythm. Oh, every week we got a quiz. Every week we got a quiz. I'm a dancer, right? So I hear that rhythm, you know. They know what to expect. Not in a boring way, but they see the pattern. You start to make a pattern, and then that pattern has expectations associated with it. I'm going to just ask you to take a minute and let me show you. It's in your handout, the first handout. It says sample storyboard. This is on page 3 of the one with the Venn diagram on the front. So this was from, now this was a strictly online class. This was from a Christian leadership course, and we always had these components, lecture, reading, forum, faith integration assignments, okay? So I knew I had to populate, so I used to work for APS, Adult and Professional Studies, so this is a project I worked on. So we knew we always had to have these components. So every week there was a different topic, and I would populate, I created this table, just a way for me to keep track of stuff, okay? Now let's flip the page, and here's another idea for you, is the second one called activity level elements, before, during, and after. So this is probably more appropriate for a blended course, this particular model. So imagine if you have a certain topic or activity, but really, again, tied to some learning objective. What might you do before, during, and after class? And I especially want you to consider for today putting some content online, because today's really talking more about content. Would you videotape yourself? Would you have them go read something? Do you know some cool videos they could go access on YouTube or somewhere? So I'd like you to just take a second and think about some topic you teach. What could be a before, during, and after structure? And I'll ask you to share out. Let's just do just an individual activity right now, please. So this is a comic my sister and I did. It's the second hour of my demonstration. So the killer, right, of too much stuff. And online it's even worse. Okay, so I'm going to show you, this one is from Mike Wong. I'm going to just sort of walk you through it. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because you're not physical therapist. So this is his overview. Can you see it? So he had a little music. This is done in Camtasia. He's recorded PowerPoint. We don't see his face. Obviously, we see a lot of design decisions he's already
Hi guys, this is Dr. Wong. Welcome to Orthopedics. We finally made it to fall quarter. We're going to do orthopedic physical therapy rehabilitation. Corner, the biology side, is a component of knowledge acquisition.
We see one of his design decisions is he puts himself in a lot. So that's part of, again, his secret sauce. You can see him there with the students. He's developing relationships. This is with a face-to-face class. So So this graphic, I love graphics like this. It's a little complex, but he walks them through it, and they experience it throughout the whole course. So he says, we're going to start here with some basic stuff, look at the psychosocial, blah, 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 and now treatments, okay? In this video, he walks them through this, and they're going to keep seeing it. He shows the learning outcomes. He puts that in his slides. Okay, this is the overview slide. But he also puts a document in there. So Camtasia and Camtasia lets you bring in a lot of different types of media, video, documents, etc. So he uses that. He's very good with the tool. He chooses to not put his own face in it. You can or not. This example, I did a consulting project for Walden University a little while back on instructional design. And the way they did it is, so they, they're strictly online university. They have a lot of students and they focus on education. So think about, the numbers. Okay, a lot of people, so they put more money into their media. So the first one I'm going to show you, I'll just show you a little snippet, is interviewing me. So imagine, and I'm not really the instructor for the class because they have instructors, but I'm serving as the expert. They're interviewing me. So they have a little titling. Let me go forward a little bit.
In this program,
The instructional design model, sort of the superstructure, is ADDIE. And that's an acronym. The A is for so they intersperse some slides. D development, I implementation. You can do all this in Camtasia if you want. And it's very but you can see this is more high-end kind of a thing that they did. Can really cover a broad range of designs. Okay. And then, so, but for you guys, you could set up an interview format. Maybe there's an expert that you'd like to interview, and you just bring, have them sit in front of the webcam and bring your phone and interview them. And that has a different feel. So that's an option for you, is to interview somebody. The other thing we did that was kind of fun was this lady here with the red hair was a real client of mine. And we worked together. They wanted a practical demonstration of how to work with the client on an instructional design project. So we see scenario 1 through 3. So it sort of goes through time. Okay. So Linda, that's her name, she and I wrote a whole script. So I'll just show you a little tiny piece of it. So there's another, just basically the idea of another use of video.
implement and evaluate. You incorporate it.
And you want to reduce the time to solve the customer's problem. So let's look at some of the data that we found. Okay. So the first one here. So they also intersperse the slides. And that thing we're looking at is actually our script, because we didn't really memorize it. They did this in one take. They kind of made a set, and we had a script, okay? You don't have to have a script. You could just real-time interview somebody. And again, this is more high-end. And then I'll say it now, is I'm available. If anyone wants to learn to use Camtasia, I'm available. I'm going to send out some information to everyone here. I'm going to send out some tutorial links. I'm going to send out some information about different tools you can use to record and different locations for getting content. So I'll send that out to you. In the time we have left, I'm going to just run through a few best practices, and I'm going to call on a few of you to say, what might you record if you had, or actually ask for volunteers. What could you record? So think about that. And hopefully you've put it in your little storyboard, your little before, during, and after. So here's a couple best practices. Whoops. Tie the reading or the lecture to the assignment and then use it in the classroom. Okay, hold them accountable. This is an example. You don't have to read all this. This is from my org behavior class. We had current event articles, and as you read the article, you're supposed to answer these questions. So this is just an example. Assess, so let's look at assessment in lecture. You can assess before some kind of a demonstration, and then they could, kind of like the web example where they try to do it, then they bring their problems to class, okay? So they can do an assessment before class to see how they're doing. They can do a self-assessment after class, depending what you think. In the demo I gave you, they used the quizzes as content for the class. So the quiz wasn't just a way to make sure that they did the reading and to learn, but it's maybe you see everyone gets item number 12 wrong. You can use that information Again, that's your secret sauce, is the customization you bring to that specific group of students. You guys are having trouble with item 12. Let's go over it, okay? Just that point there. Okay, so here's a few best practices. We've got a lot of stuff here. Chunking information. So please don't just take your hour lecture and make an hour video. You want to break it up. You can, if you post it in Sakai, you can have little links for topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, etc. You can intersperse that with questions. Go to the quiz and take a question, or just have them, bring the answer to the question. Use case studies, stories, include human elements. So these are some best practices in your online lectures. Use animation or video. So you can bring it. You can have. So for example, in an editing tool like Camtasia, you can have shoot yourself, and then you can also have like a YouTube video in that same video, or there are separate links in your pre-work for the students. Have students immediately apply the information. That's always a good practice. Okay, so there's a couple little ideas for you there. There's a couple of technical ideas. I showed you this. Let's look. Oh, demonstration, sorry. What will happen next? So trying to make your demonstrations a little more interactive. So the difference between demonstration and a straight lecture is you're showing how to do something. So this is for your tasks, really showing students how to do it. Okay. Another kind of content can be student-generated content, student presentations. So this is kind of that jigsaw idea. They present the content, okay? I'll just let you look at that slide. The presentations can be in person or developing videos. The idea of a gallery. So in a gallery means students are evaluating each other's work. What I love about this is a great way for students to bring examples. Now, my background has been more with working professionals. So you have to gauge, kind of like, I'm sorry, what's your name? Yeah, Emily. As Emily said, you've got to consider how much are they really bringing to the table. So for some of you, students may be able to literally provide some of the content through their projects, through the work they do, and they're really good, valid examples for each other. Okay, so this last little piece here, what are your experiences with, have any of you done it? And then we'll do this question first, and then I want to see what topic do you want to attack. So have any of you tried to do recorded lectures, any scars, horror stories, or questions? So you don't want your movies to be too long, because you want to insert that practice in there, whether it's a quiz or discussion or something like that. So yeah, 10 minutes, I don't know, 10 minutes. I probably know more than 10 minutes each piece. You could have more pieces. These are some possible sources, okay, that I've found. Also PBS. Any other sources that you like? You guys want to share? I'll send this to you. I'll send this to you. Any other sources you want to share? And if anyone has any more questions, please contact me. I'm Kwinn. If you want to learn Camtasia, whatever, just contact me.